So this week, one of the most brazenly corrupt, out of touch, pro-corporate politicians in the Democratic Party did something that was pretty uncharacteristic. He actually proposed legislation that the American people want. Now, this individual is surprisingly Cory Booker. Now, Herman Lopez of Vox explains a new bill in the Senate would not just end the federal prohibition of marijuana, but encourage states to legalize pot as well. The bill, proposed by Senator Cory Booker on Tuesday, would remove marijuana from the federal scheduling system, which is the basis for its federal criminalization. That isn't new in the Senate. Senator Bernie Sanders, for one, also put forward a bill that would deschedule marijuana back in 2015. Where Booker's bill goes further is it actively encourages states to legalize cannabis. Specifically, the bill leverages federal funds to incentivize legalization in states that have enforced laws against marijuana in a way that disproportionately impacts low-income people and people of color, a category that includes virtually every state. A 2015 report from the Sentencing Project, for one, estimated that Black Americans are 3.7 times as likely to be arrested for marijuana possession as their white counterparts, but only 1.3 times as likely to use pot. The measure addresses two layers of prohibition. Under current federal law, pot remains illegal even in states that have legalized, creating big barriers to states that have legalized, including restrictions on business tax deductions and access to banking. But whether marijuana is legal, decriminalized, or illegal at the state or local level is decided through state or local law, meaning that a city or state could conceivably keep marijuana illegal even if the federal government removes all its own restrictions. So for me personally, I'll just say that I would prefer that this bill goes even further, because I would like that instead of just encouraging states to legalize marijuana, that it just mandates that all 50 states legalize recreational marijuana. But at the same time, this is still good public policy. I mean, it's fiscally sound, and it would benefit these states. It would allow them to legalize marijuana and then take in a huge amount of revenue in tax dollars. It would stimulate the economy. It would be good for them. It's good public policy. So, I'm someone who always puts policy above the politician, so I like good policy regardless if the politician that proposes it is someone who I typically dislike. And Cory Booker here, I've got to give him credit where credit is due. So, this is the right move, but nonetheless, I was still curious as to why Cory Booker decided to do this, and initially, I chalked this up to him just trying to pander to progressives because he's going to be running for president in 2020, but it's actually a little bit more deeper than that. And it really goes back to him being corrupt. Nothing has changed here because presumably you'd think that he turned a new leaf, but in actuality, in doing this, he's still doing the bidding of his donors. So I want to play a clip from TYT Politics where Emma Vigeland, she did a tremendous amount of research, and what she uncovered won't be too surprising about Cory Booker.
Cory Booker was one of the senators who was the Pharma 13, who's so pro the pharmaceutical industry, who receives massive amounts of donations from them. And now he's flipped and is wanting marijuana to be legal throughout the entire country. So I looked into it a little bit further and I saw this. NASDAQ reports Pfizer, Merck, and other big pharmas likely to acquire marijuana-based drug companies. So let's break down one of the biggest companies listed that might acquire marijuana companies, Merck. Merck is based in New Jersey and is one of Cory Booker's biggest donors. Merck gave more money to Cory Booker than they did to any other candidate in 2014, giving him $12,500. For the other companies listed that might acquire these marijuana companies, in 2014, Novartis gave $7,000 to Cory Booker, and Sanofi gave the same amount of money that was just in his 2014 election cycle.
So I'll have a link to the full video in the description box, and I would highly encourage you to watch it because Emma goes into a ton of details, and I didn't want to, show too much of the video because I want to encourage you to watch it and support them. But great job to Emma. Kudos to you, because I think that what you uncovered here, it's pretty clear. So, Cory Booker, at the end of the day, is still doing the bidding of his donors in proposing legislation that would legalize marijuana potentially. Now, in this case, Cory Booker is still a corporate sellout, but it just so happened that we have one of those rare instances where corporate interests are starting to align with the interests of American voters. The last time we really saw something like this happen was in the early 2010s when big business started to really get on board and become more vocal about their support for marriage equality once it was clear that public opinion was shifting rapidly in that direction. And the Democratic Party, they were cowards. They didn't want to get on board and full-throatedly support marriage equality. In fact, they didn't do so until 2012. That's when Obama endorsed it. And some people like Hillary Clinton didn't come out for marriage equality until 2013. That still blows my mind thinking about it, honestly. But the reason why they did this is because they had assurance from their donors that that was okay. You know, in endorsing marriage equality, that wouldn't offend their donors. That wouldn't turn over the apple cart. You know, they could still continue to be corrupt and take money from large multinational corporations and not offend them. And now we're starting to see that, you know, once these big companies, big pharma in particular, is seeing just how lucrative the marijuana business is, they're thinking, maybe it's the case that we don't actually hate marijuana after all. Maybe we want to get involved in the marijuana business. And because of this, because they are funding the campaigns of people like Cory Booker, they have puppets already in Congress that can do their bidding for them. So look, regardless of how we get policy codified into law, if it's good policy, if it's progressive policy, then I'm okay with that. But it doesn't change the fact that Cory Booker is still a corporate sellout. I mean, we have to be clear here. We're not tacitly endorsing Cory Booker in 2020 by supporting his bill. Objectively speaking, it's just good policy, and I think that all Democrats should get behind Cory Booker if he is willing to lead on this particular issue, even though he's leading for the wrong reasons. But I mean, if he thinks that this is enough to win over progressives in 2020, it's not. I mean, if you truly want to win us over, then you've got to denounce all of your corporate donors. You got to swear to not take any money from super PACs, and you've got to actually campaign and raise money exclusively through grassroots methods so we know that you're not bought off. I mean, this is a good thing that you're doing here, but I mean, again, you're doing it because your corporate donors are indicating, you know, and this is speculation, of course, but you're doing this because they're okay with you doing it, or they kind of nudged you in the direction to do this. So you're not any less of a sellout, but you just happen to land on the right side of issues. So kudos to you for being on the right side of an issue, but you shouldn't be on the right side of an issue because of money. You should be on the right side of the issue because that's what the American people want and expect from you. But nonetheless, I absolutely support this policy, and I really hope that more Democratic senators and some Republican senators who are a little bit more politically astute, namely Rand Paul to a degree, come on board and co-sponsor this piece of legislation. And I think that as progressives, we've got to push them in that direction because this is a gigantic step that could potentially catalyze nationwide legalization of marijuana, and that would be amazing.
Support this podcast by joining the independent progressive media revolution today at humanistreport.com.